hate it.
Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Can you guys hear me? Thumbs up.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Oh, jeepers. We had a few glitches, technical stuff, but we're back in it. Welcome everybody to another episode of the Rugby Scoop podcast, live recording on Sunday afternoon. Jade, how are things in Bloemfontein over the past weekend?
It's going good, Scoop. It's going good. Good to see some quality rugby on TV. Good to see some good performances and good to see the same old Scotland on TV again.
Fair. Griffin, England, how are things over there?
It's wet and miserable, Scoop. It's wet and miserable in the skies, and it's wet and miserable on the rugby pitch as well.
Yes, it is indeed. I mean, some people needed to learn how to do the breaststroke in Rome. Some were learning how to do the backstroke in Rome. But anyway, lots and plenty to talk about today, as usual. It is sunny, blue skies in Amsterdam at the moment, so no complaints on my side. As we always do every Sunday, so we start off with news that made headlines this past week, and then the Six Nations. We're going to start off with France versus Ireland, or Ireland versus France, and then go to Scotland versus Italy. Massive upset there. And then we head over to Twickenham, where England looking prime time against Wales over the last night in the last game of the Six Nations. But without wasting any time, news making headlines, new signing, Gianni Lombard, Jade, joins Hollywoodbets Sharks on a 3-year deal starting next season. I mean, this is a massive scoop, actually, by the Sharks as well, right? We know they've got Masuku, we know they've got Hendrickse in their rankings, but they lost one of their fullbacks. I forgot the guy's name now, who played for them last season, but he went over to England. But now snapping up Gianni Lombard, I mean, it's a good pick for the Sharks, I guess. I mean, it gives them a bit of depth in the 10 and 15 jersey.
Yeah, it does give them a better depth in that 15 and 10 jersey. I mean, I don't think the signing was all that necessary from the Sharks. I think he was more key to the Lions than how he'd be key to the Sharks. However, it's a good depth that they added to their roster. So I think, in terms of that, you will add a lot of depth to that roster. And who knows where he can end up. I mean, look at it was similar when Manili Bok went there a few years ago, from the Wolves. To a similar type of signing. Some guys really didn't implement him at the franchise like they would have. Didn't live up to the hype that they did, coming through age group. And then from the Sharks, they just took it to the next level. So we'll see, what career path Gianni takes from here and how he takes the opportunity to the Sharks. But yeah, it has a lot of depth to them.
Yeah. Griffin, have you seen a bit of Gianni? Because I don't think he played a lot of games since Nohamba has left, actually.
No, I think I remember seeing about him a couple of years ago, and there was lots of debates about the amount of game time that he was getting at the Lions. So obviously this one's caused a lot of discussion, but as you said, I did check his playing time, and he's not been playing tons. So I guess with the Sharks, we know that the 10 position is maybe a bit of a question mark. They've got Jordan, who some people say his best position. Is it really 10? Is it 15? He played 12 with the Lions as well. And then you've got, what does this mean for Sia Masuku as well?
Yeah.
And they've also got, I believe, the under-20s fly half.
Really?
Or something. What's his name?
Do they have, the Sharks have the under-20s fly half?
Yeah.
The one that played this season?
Vusi Moyo or something.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
So it'll be interesting to see if he comes through. So it's a little bit of a question at the Sharks, what's going on with that 10 jersey. But yeah, so I don't know whether this guy is being signed to be the answer or to be a backup. And if he's a backup, who's he a backup to?
Fair enough. But also, I mean, I think me now just thinking out of the box here, since we're having this discussion, looking at the South African teams, and we always complain about not having enough depth for Investec Championship, for URC, and we look at teams like Leinster, for example, they always have an abundance of depth. So it will be good for the Sharks, I guess. We know Siya Kolisi is already going to Cape Town, but this is not a like-for-like swap, to be honest. They'll probably get... I don't know, in rugby, does it work the same as in football? Like, does the team get money for selling or taking Siya Kolisi to Cape Town? Does the Sharks get the money?
Only if he's left before contract. If before his contract runs out, someone has to buy him out of the contract, or they need to let him just agree to release him, which I'd be surprised. But obviously, they'll save a lot of money on his wages, though.
Yeah, 100%. Oh man, it would be good though. I mean, selling a Siya Kolisi, for example, that would give the Sharks, I mean, enough money to go around and buy a few players. But then at the end of the day, right, Gianni Lombard is going to the Sharks at the end of the season. Sticking with you, Griffin, World Rugby released the World Cup schedule. Wallabies versus Allblacks will not be the opening match in 2027. Would this have been prime opportunity for World Rugby to start off or kick things off with an All Blacks versus Wallabies game on the first night of Rugby 2027 World Cup?
You would have thought so. It would have been. I mean, if you look back at France, they kicked off against the All Blacks at their World Cup in 23.
Yep.
So I don't know. Were they worried that the pool stage would get a bit, dull, or people would lose interest through the pool stage after that game was done? I had a look at the pool stages, and I did a bit of a nerdy thing of stacking up, world ranking points, on matchups throughout the pool stage. And to be honest, Scoop, there's going to be maybe half a dozen genuinely competitive games during the pool stage at the next World Cup. Absolute tops. We're going to see a lot of thrashings. We're going to see a lot of non-contests, one-sided games. We're going to see some horrific score lines. And unfortunately, it looks like that we could be seeing that in the very first game. I mean, with the opener, they've already not taken on the big game against New Zealand. You struggle to believe that Australia will field a B team in the World Cup opener, even though it is against Hong Kong, who are one of, if not the lowest ranked team in the competition. And, I don't know, but I've got a conspiracy theory that rugby's trying to grow in Asia. Maybe someone's had a word. Maybe HSBC are involved. Like, hey, guys, can we get Hong Kong on a night where everybody has to watch Hong Kong? Maybe that's just me that's my conspiracy theories. I don't know that, but that's what I'm thinking, because I tell you, this World Cup is going to start with a very boring game, and I guarantee you that the conversations that we're going to be having the day after, or the whole rest of the day, because I guess it's in the morning for Europeans, is that we're immediately going to be into the controversy about the 2014 World Cup. Should there be that many teams? Why is rugby so uncompetitive, etc., etc.? We're starting the tournament with that this way, and I don't see how Australia as a team benefit from this. Like, if they had the All Blacks last in the pool, then it's building to that, and it kind of builds momentum for the rest of the tournament. Or if they had them first up, it's out the way and they can put out rotated teams in the next two games, which they should win easily. But doing it this way is kind of neither. I don't see who this benefits, to be honest. I don't see the upside to this from any perspective.
Yeah, no, I think having Hong Kong as an opponent, I mean, there's not really a lot to take out of that, to be honest. I think who will be the coach again? Les Kiss. He probably won't benefit from this, but I'm assuming he'll probably field his starting lineup, because then what happens is if you get a bit of a hit out, it's a good preparation for the following week, because that's when they will be playing the All Blacks. And also we know tier 1 teams get at least about 5 to 6 days turnaround time, and the lower tier teams get around 4 days turnaround time. Imagine playing the Wallabies on a Friday night, and then on Tuesday or Wednesday you're already playing another big team in the group, which is crazy for these lower tier teams. I mean, Jade, were you expecting the All Blacks to be playing the Wallabies in the first game as well?
I thought they'd do that. Just to, get the hype and just get everybody in to, get the World Cup spirit in everybody in Australia. Because I think if you look at the calendar, I think the NRL season is just ending, or might have just be going to the final stages in the AFL season as well when the World Cup kicks off. So I thought they would have done that, just to get it hype up in terms of rugby union in Australia. But yeah, I mean, what can we do about it, Scoop? We can complain and we can say what you want to do about it. It's going to be a strange World Cup. We're just going to have to get used to it and become accustomed to it. It's one of those World Cups. For the first month, it's going to be and until the last 16 years, there, good game there, and then the quarterfinals. That's when the World Cup really kick off. I don't think any strange things will happen in the group stages for the favorite teams.
Yeah. England to repeat what they did in 2003. Jade, sticking with you, Mathieu Reynal has hit out at Southern Hemisphere, saying that we want more tries and and passes instead of mauls and scrums. What are your thoughts regarding a referee, former world referee, saying these words out loud? He's been quoted by what's that French publication? Le Sport something, not Le Sportif. I forgot what it is. But he's been quoted for saying that we don't want mauls and scrums. I mean, in this pod, we've covered plenty of scrumming, mauls, techniques that have been used in scrums. But I mean, Southern Hemisphere, are we interested in tries and passing? What's happening?
Okay, you gotta understand this, Scoop. So it's two things here we have to look at. The Southern Hemisphere and Super Rugby specifically is always the kickoff to the season, and whenever there's new rules going to be trialed, they're going to look at it with Super Rugby. Also, both unions, the New Zealand Rugby Union and the Australian Rugby Union, are not shy or scared, of trying new things. I mean, can you remember a few years ago, I think maybe 5 or 6, 7 years ago, in the NPC, you wouldn't allow us to use your hands in the rucks. You had to just counter up. Can you remember that? Something like that. So they're always going to do, and they're always going to look at their game. And they always, the World Rugby is always going to, liaise with them to try new things. There is, a big focus, and I would say obsession in Super Rugby in terms of bowling play, in terms of getting more play time. Now, where this comparison comes from, it comes against the competitors. Where is Super Rugby losing the market? They're losing the market in terms of bums on seats and viewership in New Zealand and Australia. They're losing it to Rugby League. Now, how they feel is that the game is too boring, there's too much rules, game is not flowing compared to when it gets to Rugby League. That is their main competition at the moment in terms of the market. They can't focus on what's happening up north and, can't focus so much into trying to please the north, where they got to focus on trying to get bums on seats, trying to get the public back into Australian rugby, into New Zealand rugby. Now, I know with the derbies, you do get packed houses in New Zealand, but in Australia, it's not that good. I mean, if you look at the average attendances, there's more in Australia. Rugby League gets much more attendance than the Rugby Union. So that's a big, it's something that the Australian Rugby Union needs to look at. And they did have the Lions coming there this year. They did have big attendances, but that is the target market. Now look at what they're trying to do. They're trying to speed up the game. They're trying to get more bowling play. They're stating here that this would add extra 4 minutes, a minimum, into the game by implementing these new laws. Is these new laws going to take the game away in such a way that the Super Rugby teams and Fiji will be hampered when they do play international rugby? We do not know. We do not know, because number one, if you look at it, the caterpillar is gone in Super Rugby. So there will be no, You're not allowed to come in. You're not allowed to come in. It's once a ref call, use it. You're not allowed to come in and form the caterpillar for the box.
Yeah.
That's a huge weapon in international rugby. The other one, that we have to look at also is, how are we going to infringe? Are we going to focus on our maul defense, or are we going to allow them to score, knowing that we're not going to get the double whammy, a penalty try and somebody in the bin? There is that possibility. So that also comes in how coaches interpret it. But in terms of speeding up the game, in terms of getting more passes, in terms of scoring more tries, that's just the brand of rugby they want to create for their own public, to get more people into the stadium, to get more people watching the game. And don't tell me, start to win, more people come to the stadium, because I might tell you what, go look at Kings Park, go look at Ellis Park, go look at Loftus and some places like that. The guys, the public, would rather sit at home and watch the game on television. Cape Town, because I think Cape Town is good attendance. No matter
but Cape Town has always been the same, even when they had Newlands Stadium. It's never changed.
It's a problem. It's a problem, when it comes to attendance. I know there's economic issues. I know people's budgets are tight. To take a family of 4, I spoke on with you a few years ago on this podcast, how much it costs to take a family of 4, to a game. But we still need to get these guys back into the stadium, We still need to get at least, 30, 40,000 people watching the Waratahs versus the Reds compared to 10, 12,000.
That's a tall order. That's a big ask. 40,000 people.
But I mean, what I'm saying is 30,000 people. But now it's 15, 16,000 people. It's only the Brumbies, that really has a high attendance. So that's the big issue they have there. And by doing this, a lot of the public, they had a survey, and a lot of public was complaining there's too much rules and regulations when it comes to rugby league. The game doesn't flow. So now they're trying that. If it doesn't work, they go back. But when it comes to international rugby, we have to see how this affects them, this affects them, because there is a few laws here.
I don't know about how much impact it would or should have when it comes to international game. If you're an international coach, you know how to adjust to the international standard, international ways of playing. You come in there, you implement your own philosophy, you implement your own game plan to suit the team that you currently have. So for me personally, I mean, Super Rugby has always been, like I posted a couple of days ago on my timeline, Super Rugby and what's this thing in South Africa, Varsity Cup, have always been World Rugby's launch pad for any law variations or new law implementations. So they want to start them off there to see if these laws would make the game a bit more interesting, right? A bit more creating a spectacle, quote unquote. So I don't think it's about Mauls and Scrums. Mauls and Scrums are part of the game. Mauls and Scrums will never move away from the game, because we're not playing rugby league at the end of the day. I don't know, Hugh, I mean, from your perspective in terms of what you've seen, and especially now with South Africa involved with URC, we know South Africans have been very on the conservative side when it comes to rugby. There's a lot of scrumming, there's a lot of mauling, a lot of physicality involved. Even when they were in Super Rugby, it was still the same. Nothing has changed that much. But in terms of the current status of, I mean, last week we spoke about the shape of the game, listening to Rassie and his other coaching staff talking about the game themselves in the podcast. Looking at the game itself, the shape of the game, I mean, would you say that watching Super Rugby, the guys are more inclined to be playing a quicker game? Because I look at top 14, it's a much quicker game. It's pretty much similar. There's no difference from what I see as a product in top 14 rugby. So is it a North versus South thing? Is it, are we interested in tries and passing in the Southern Hemisphere, and the North is more interested in mauls and scrums? And also the impact of having wet conditions in the Northern Hemisphere pretty much like 9 to 10 months out of the year.
Well, I don't think that you can say that the Super Rugby teams are more interested in tries and batting when you look at the stats coming out of France, coming out of the English Premiership at the moment, where tries are through the roof. And you're right. If you look at teams like Toulouse and Bordeaux and stuff, these are teams that play exciting footy and stuff. So it's not all scrums and mauls and things in these leagues, particularly not in the English Premiership at the moment or the last couple of years. I think what I don't get, there's two things. The Super Rugby has never been lacking for tries that I can remember. It's never been a low-scoring league. It's always been an attack-first league. But they seem to have gotten into the heads that this ball in play time is the most important thing, which I don't necessarily get. I think it's a bit of a white elephant. I think it's a bit of a, it doesn't mean anything really, because you can have loads of ball in play time, but nothing actually happening, which is what I saw in a lot of the New Zealand derbies in Super Rugby last season. Is a lot of ball in play, but it was just phase after phase after phase of no space, no line breaks, nothing, just play. High ball in play time, but not actually really much, if anything, happening, to be honest, in some of those games. And it's a stark contrast. If you look at, say, soccer, if you look at the English Premier League, you look at what they've done with
football. What is the soccer business?
My granddad always called it soccer. So if you look at that, what they're doing with extra time, they're keeping fans in the stadium for longer. They're playing the true extra time, and the games are getting longer and longer. You look at some teams in the USA, sports like baseball and NFL and stuff. How long do those things last? How long do they go on for? So why, killing dead time is a thing that is only really deemed to be a massive problem in Super Rugby, to be honest. They're the only ones that are kind of actively crusading against it. If you look at all of the, crusader pun, but if you look at all other sports all around the world, it's not the same. And then the other thing, just to quickly on what Jade said, when they survey people, say, why don't you go to rugby? Oh, it's because of the rules, it's too complicated and things. Show me the data that shows that you've now gone back to those people and said to them, hey, we changed the rules, and they go, okay, we're going to buy a season ticket now.
Fair. That is fair.
Are these people who are never going to come to rugby anyway?
Yeah. No, that is fair. That is fair. Goodness gracious. And also, while we're on the topic, there was a big uproar, Hugh. I mean, I think this is more related to you. There was a big uproar with regards to advertising during Six Nations. So on-screen advertising during a game. I mean, from coming from South Africa at SuperSport, pretty much has ads during the game. I didn't see this as a big issue. But the guys coming from Ireland and all these other countries, is it a big thing in the UK and Ireland where you guys didn't have adverts during a game? Like, let's say someone's trying to tie up his shoes, a prop mostly, trying to tie up his shoes. There's a nice pop-up ad. It really doesn't impact anything on the game. It's not like the screen is cut in half, or not in half. It's almost like a quarter of the screen, and then the bottom level of the screen has like an ad that runs through. It can just be words you can read or whatever, and maybe a brand sign, etc. And then it'll go back to the normal size screen, and the game will continue. I mean, we are used to this back in SA, for example. And I think someone also tagged me in a comment and saying that in New Zealand they do the same thing with Sky. So I'm not sure how things have been with ITV showing ads during play in Six Nations. I don't know how was that received over the past couple of days.
So you're right in saying that when it was announced, when this came out, there was uproar. We're really not used to it. You have to remember that ITV are relatively new to rugby anyway. Growing up, we're all used to the rugby being on the BBC, which is a public broadcaster. So there's no advertising at all on it. So it's bad enough really having to watch the rugby with adverts, at half time and stuff. But actually during the game, that's really against what a lot of people are used to. But What you were saying there is kind of like, an advert, like a banner coming up on the screen, maybe a logo or a caption or something, and maybe even the lead commentator saying this game is brought to you by Budweiser or whatever it is. That kind of thing would have been fine. Have you actually seen what it is, what ITV are actually doing?
I think there was a Samsung ad. Someone posted something online.
So what they do, and because for me, I what you said, I would agree. I'm like, okay, look, we need the money, and if they're going to put a logo up on the screen and say buy Nissan or whatever it is, that's one thing. What they do is that the screen cuts in half, the audio from the game is shut off completely, and it plays like a full advert of, like, studio quality, completely different audio, backing music and stuff, and it completely kills the vibe. It is a really bad integration. It's a really bad solution that they've come up with. Like what you said, if it was a banner, if it was a caption, if it was the lead com saying something, and you keep the match audio in the background, then cool, yeah, whatever. We'd all get over it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But what ITV have done really, really, really harms the viewing experience. It really takes away from it, and it's not a good solution that they've done. And I don't really understand why they've done it that way, because it seems quite lazy, to be honest. It's rather than coming up with tailored advertising, that's suitable for the application, they're just playing a normal advert, like basically over the top of the match.
All right. No, fair enough. Moving on, guys. Wallace Sititi, Jade, Codie Taylor, Patrick Tuipulotu, all of these guys have responded to the talk around Ardie Savea's role in Scott Robertson's axing, calling it totally unfair to solely blame it on Ardie. Do you agree? Yes or no?
I'm going to sound like a hypocrite by saying if I do agree, but obviously, they're trying to throw water over the fire and, just get back to normal. So, I mean, nobody in the right mind's going to come out and say, Ardie was wrong in doing so, and he should have, respected the coach, etc., etc., etc. So I think there's just now a lot of PR damage control being done now in New Zealand. It's a mess there at the moment. So I think Super Rugby needs to start there so they can put us behind them and they can just get back to business, just let's talk about rugby
I think
at the moment.
No, fair. I think with the preseason games that have started the past 2 weeks, I think everyone has kind of moved on from the Scott Robertson's thing. And also, New Zealand Rugby Herald, they posted an article like that gives you in-depth analysis of the past 2 years and how things...
That article was harsh on Scott Robertson. It was like,
I don't think so, Jade.
But who's leaking this? You understand?
There's people inside, clearly, because there are sources that are saying these things. And those sources are credible people that have been asked, who are inside people as well. So for me personally, I think, or I have always felt, I'm not going to lie, I've felt after, once Scott Robertson got the gig, we were all happy. I mean, we thought this is the Messiah. He's leading us to the water. We're going to drink from the fountain of non-ending or the best New Zealand or All Blacks rugby we've ever seen because of Scott Robertson, right? That was the idea. And we thought glitz and glamour, rainbow, here we go. Scott Robertson, first year, we said, yes, we'll give him an opportunity. We'll give him a chance. We'll let him take over. He's on the wheel. He's the one who's driving us to the promised land. And year two, Jade, personally, I didn't think he should have lost 2 games at home against the Springboks, number one. And once that happened, I don't think I was ever confident. And then we moved on from losing to the Springboks. We went on with the end of the year Grand Slam tour in 2025, and we thought this should be his biggest and ultimate test. also failed on that department. Now, reading everything that has come out from that article and seeing Scott Robertson in his post-match interviews, man, at times it always felt like he was about to cry, or he was very nervous, very what is this? Like when your voice changes when you are about to cry and the words are not coming out properly. English is not my first language. But nonetheless, you could hear, man, and you could sense and you could feel that this guy is not in control. And then when the article comes out and says exactly the same things that I was thinking, or the things we've discussed on this pod, and you go, well, at this point, everything is kind of aligning. And at this point, everything is making a lot of sense. And for me, the worst part is that what happened in that England game. And then I'm like, oh, snap. You know, you could sense there was no control over anything. When they decided to go for a tap and go on a penalty, just on the other side of the half, Jade. I mean, come on. I mean, I would literally leave my club that I'm coaching right now if anyone decided to tap and play in that position or that situation. Come on, man. Come on.
Scoop, we've been here. We've been discussing Scott Robertson. We're criticizing him for 2 years. But my thing is not against Scott Robertson here. My thing is against New Zealand Rugby Union here. You just had a review now where you leaked the biggest story in the law since when the guys got into the changing room and basically told when McCoy and the senior players got in the changing room and told Smith, Shag, and Ted, listen, guys, you got to change your roles. You got to go focus on defense. You got to focus on attack, and you got to change your roles. We need But it's the biggest thing in 20 years. Biggest gossip story was Ardie Savea coming out, and it was leaked. It was leaked. Now you had a formal review done. For fuck's sakes, post the review. Post what was the outcome. There's some backbone to stand on, because now you're getting a reporter again, slamming this guy again. And we know the faults, we know everything, but just come out and say something, not just a one page, a paragraph stating that you're looking for a new coach and Dane Collins and Kevin Mayalamu, are on the panel with Kirk and Lancaster. Don't come in and give something, give a formal thing and state why Scott Robertson was fired, what was the decisions, and where we went on from there. Because next week another story is going to come out. That's what you got to do. It's a circus.
Griffin, what are your thoughts on this? I think we need to wrap it up with the news, unfortunately, and then jump into the Six Nations.
I think at the end of the day, you need to just look at the senior leadership in New Zealand Rugby Union. I think the most telling thing is that in their kind of criteria for who has to replace Razor, the first thing they said is you must have international head coaching experience. So that's kind of, throwing themselves under the bus, that they admit that their selection process for appointing Razor was flawed. They should have said to him, if you want this job, you need to go and you need to coach Wales or Italy or whoever first, so we can see you do a job before we give you this next big job. And if they really are letting, let's take the rumours at the most extreme example. If they really are letting a player like Ardie Savea choose who the All Blacks coach is, then it's on the NZRU board to be stronger than that and to tell him, no, we make the decisions around here.
Fair enough. And also, guys, just to make everyone aware that everybody that was involved with selecting Scott Robertson has been removed from the board. So some people have left looking for other jobs, obviously, and some people have been removed. And Kirk has literally made sure that they're starting off on a clean slate moving forward. And we know now that former New Zealand CEO, is now with World Rugby. And I think there's a lot of things they need to sort out, and they need more rugby people involved, because I feel like they've literally let themselves down in this situation as New Zealand rugby, because I think at some point they were overly confident, they were too pompous, and they were arrogant in their ways. And this is what arrogance leads you to. This is how I see the situation. Now you have to be humble, start from scratch, start from the bottom, and build from the bottom up at the moment. Scotland head coach Gregor Townsend to take over Newcastle Red Bulls. This is a funny story. We'll discuss this while we talk about our Six Nations conversation. Jordan Petia and Mark Nawakani Tawase. They are both heading off to Japan League One next season, which is weird. But also, I mean, they're allowed to play for Australia now because, the ghetto law has been adjusted. So Australian players can go overseas and come and represent their country. Taking a leaf out of South African book at this point. Okay, guys, Ireland versus France. Griffin, I need to apologize because I think second watch, what's his name at 13?
Deportier.
I almost called him Deportave. Deportier. Not too bad. Not too shabby. Not too shabby. I don't think was it Mofana at 12, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like there's a bit of he's being overhyped. I'm not really seeing that 12 authentic 12 first center play from him. But nonetheless, we'll jump into those details later. Ireland versus France. Griffin, your takeaways from the game. What did you see? What did you think? I will share my views because I don't like watching France in France for director and production level, because everywhere else in the world, everyone gets to see on the big screen replays of any mistakes or things that the referee has missed. But in France, it is so difficult. I don't know how they do it in top 14. I'm assuming in top 14, it's all, I don't know, they are quite transparent in that view. But when it comes to the national team, it's difficult to get any replays. So referees are highly dependent on the TMO if they miss something. And Angus Gardner, highly rated referee. I rate him myself, but to be on the touchline and really not calling certain things, I'm like, well, you kind of like Nigel Owens at this moment, because in the referee circles, everyone says Nigel Owens was the worst AR assistant referee, but on the field, he wanted his ARs to be at 100%. But nonetheless, I was very disappointed in Angus Gardner for not calling a forward pass that led to a try. But Jesus, LBB, my God, how amazing is this guy? I mean, I think 2 years ago I mentioned this. Last year I mentioned this, and I thought maybe last year he could have been the World Player of the Year. In all honesty, if it wasn't Oxenchair, for example, it was between those two. I don't know how Malcolm Marx was handed. He was practically given the World Player of the Year. Nonetheless, without wasting your time, Griffin, what are your takeaways on the Ireland versus France game?
Look, I think it's as simple as look at the two team sheets. Which team had the better players? France did in pretty much every position. You know, there's maybe 3 or 4 forwards where we can have debates, maybe in the second row, maybe in the back row. But if you look at the back line, which Irish back is getting into that France team? None is the short answer. None of them. And what I love about watching this France team in this game, and when they're playing well, and it goes the same for Toulouse and Bordeaux as well, when they're really on song, is the way you have to look at the way that they look at each other, the way that they give themselves, like give each other just like little low down high fives and stuff, just like, yeah, you're really good, I'm really good, let's do some really good stuff. Just like their body language, they look in their eyes, it all just feels right, and they understand the brief. They're a team that understands what their strengths are on an individual level, and they're like, this is what I do, and this is what you do, and this is how we make those two things work together. I'm interested to see how the Dupont-Jalibert partnership continues. I hope it does continue. And Tamak is reportedly going to be back fit. I think it would be an outrage if he comes in over Jalibert.
God.
To be honest, but that feels like a very Galtier selection decision. But yeah, I'm in because it does feel like, and if you look at kind of the PR that's coming out of on social media from both France and their individual accounts, it does seem like there's a lot of pro this partnership, a lot of, these two maybe even told, look, we're going to give this a go to make this work, and you guys need to, sit down, get round the braai or whatever it is, and have a chat about how you two work together. And so I'm interested to see how that continues going. I think it worked in this game. You saw in the early stages, Dupont, everything was through him. He was dictating the play. And then as France started to get on top, Dupont was letting Jalibert be the decision maker, and it yielded a few tries. And then when Ireland kind of had their period of momentum in the second half, it was back to Dupont again. He was steering the ship, which is interesting because it's not a side of Dupont that we often see. With Toulouse, they're normally winning games very easily. So we don't normally have to see Dupont, the game manager. It's normally not required of him. But we saw it in this game, and I found that enjoyable on a level. But then LBB as well. He's not just pace. It would be so easy to just say LBB, oh, he's just gas. And to be honest, a little bit of me is like, if he gets a bad knee injury, if his ACL goes at some point, if his Achilles goes, is this guy's
groin
gonna suddenly end? But
hamstring,
he's not just pace. Yes, his pace is phenomenal. It's a superpower. You need to watch his positioning. You need to see his anticipation. He played fly half coming through. When he was at Grenoble, when he was coming through, he was coming as a fly half, and he nearly got released as a fly half. And the story goes that they had like a speed test at the club and kind of the junior levels of Grenoble, and it's like the club manager, the team manager, rang his dad and was like, "Dude, this guy is absolutely monstering everybody in training on the speed tests. We're going to think about moving this guy's position." And however many years later, he's Six Nations Player of the Tournament, nominated for World Player of the Year, etc. But if you watch, like, when someone around him makes a line break, watch how he holds his width. Watch how he times his run. Watch where he's looking. Watch how he's always in space. He doesn't kind of just ball watch, or he doesn't just honeypot around the ball. He never just gets to where the ball is. He gets to where he needs to be in order to score a try, and he waits for the ball to come to him. Like, you see the one where Ramos has flicked it with his left foot to get it into space, and LBB's run onto it and caught it. That comes from Ramos knowing that LBB is just going to stand on the wing and wait for the ball to get to him, and LBB knowing it doesn't matter how Ramos gets this ball to me, so long as he gets it into this space, I'm going to score.
I mean, the reaction and also, the reaction, the timing, as you said it. I mean, that's incredible, to be honest. It's also like mindfulness. I mean, being aware of the current situation that is in, to be honest, as well. It's quite incredible. It's really incredible. And like I said earlier, it's quite, I don't know, strange that maybe last year was his opportunity, because we don't know what's going to happen for the rest of the year. We still have the summer tour, we still have the rugby championship, and then end of the year tour that is coming. But yeah, I mean, at this rate, he's hit the ground running, to be honest. He's a very, very strong player. But Griffin, before I go to Jade, we've spoken about France, and I also think France are in a very, very good position right now because they've got game changers within their arsenal. I wasn't too impressed with their forward pack, but the back line, cheapest. I mean, really, guys. Like I said in the WhatsApp group when we were chatting, that it reminds you of how the Allblacks were in 2014, 2013, and how they would really beat opponents based on turnovers, and France are lethal at that. This is how the All Blacks were lethal in that primetime era as well. Like French have game breakers, and their backline is literally out and out stacked with game breakers. But Ireland, Jacob Stockdale, this is personal for me because, and Tommy O'Brien, okay, I'm all right with him. Jacob Stockdale, I thought he was a prop. I honestly thought that guy was a front row player. You guys, no ways. I honestly thought that guy, when I was doing the second watch, I'm like, no, man, this is actually a wing. And people at the moment, Irish rugby pundits, everyone is talking about the lack of speed when it comes to Ireland backline. And then they are also blaming Jacques Nienaber of what he's done with Leinster. And I'm like, no, man, you can't blame a club team for what's happening with the national team. Why is no one blaming Farrell on his game plan, execution? He's in charge of the first team, of the national team. This does not make any sense. I think it was Wanda who posted the halftime or post match thing at on X. So I got to listen on what the Irish pundits were talking about, which is weird, man. It's really weird when you're gonna blame a defensive coach at a club. At a club. He's not involved with the national team. At a club. Farrell is in charge of the national team. He's responsible for whatever game plan the national Irish team is putting on the field. So now I posted what the Irish tactics were for Thursday's game. Their tactics were to kick the ball. Kick the ball off the base, kick the ball from line out, have one phase, and Jameson Gibson Park gives it a good hanger. The only issue I have with this is that Ireland were not really prepared in how to manage and how to have escorts when it comes to contesting for those balls. They were not contesting to catch the ball, which is an issue for me. They were contesting just to disrupt whatever was happening. They kicked a few times to LBB. LBB was in good position, caught the ball, marked the ball at one point, but he managed to give the ball back to his team, so opposition. And then they kicked the ball on the other side of the winger, forgot his name now, and also I think Ramos was on that side, on the left-hand side or right-hand side. And there was a bit of a juggle every time they kicked that side. So I thought to myself, why wouldn't you stick to that then? If they are fumbling the ball every time you kick to that other side of the winger, and the fullbacks or the fly off is always coming in, so that backfield in that area has challenges. So stick with that side, but Stockdale is not quick enough to get there on time. You have to get like a Jamie Osborne to really push and jump and make sure that he disrupt anything that is an aerial tactic. But yeah, man, I think Farrell failed in executing that game plan. France took advantage of that. Every time Ireland lost the ball in those aerial battles, it was a turnover ball, and Ireland and France would literally gain either 20 to 30 meters by just passing the ball out wide, or their game breakers would literally break the line and really create havoc for the defensive pattern of the Ireland team. I don't know who's involved of who's in charge of Ireland defense at the moment. Jade, your thoughts on the game?
No, let's give credit to ways too. France first off, they were outstanding. They won the physicality and they won the physical battle. At times I felt, looked a little bit rushed. I felt if a few moments couldn't go their way, maybe it was, 7-0 half time, maybe one score only after them starting like a house on fire, Ireland would have crept into the game. But They took the opportunities. They were brilliant. I mean, I like what I saw from Jalibert at 10. I like you said, with the point being the decision maker in the first 20 or so. Jalibert taking the ball flat at times and hitting the line hard. That's different to what we've seen from, excuse me, from Intermark. So I like that. And also the 13 that you spoke about, I think he had an awesome game. I think he carried hard. He got an outside shoulder. What France do is they like to attack with width. So they like to bring the wingers and the outside and extend the fullback into the game. So they like to get Louis Beret one-on-one situations where he can beat the guy on the outside or, he has a little bit of space. So what they do is they manipulate the game quickly so they can get that mismatch out wide. And what I liked from them, they didn't, although they looked rushed at times, the decision making, in the final three, in the final quarter was brilliant in the first half. Their discipline, I mean, we spoke about it. I said that, they only conceded one handling error in the first half and 0 penalties. Now, in a Six-Nation competition, in a game, regardless of who the referee is, I mean, we pointed out a few errors that the referee made, etc., etc. But, however, you still got to pull that off. In your first game of the season, when you're going to be accurate to the breakdown. The ball speed was also, up there. So for me, I would say, France were brilliant in that first half. I mean, they killed the game in the first half. It could have been more. It could have and should have been more. Maybe there's something at Gautier would look at. They gave a window opportunity for Ireland to, scrape back into the game and make the game respectable. The lock is a Gillard. Oh, what a game. I thought he was more of a loose forward, I looked at him and identified him as a weakness. I said, you know what? Oliver and Gillard are not actually out and out, locks that's going to scare me. If I'm looking at the locks that's going around,
Yeah. During the week, even during the lineups, or when the teams were announced, Jade, people were talking about these guys being played out of position.
Yeah. And I looked at it and I thought to myself, maybe at line-out time they can target them. Maybe, they won't hit as much rucks as a Flament or, other a Walker would do in the past, Maybe just get it. But they were absolutely, I mean, he was brilliant. The way he carried, his physicality showed. The way, he was brilliant line-out time. The areas of concern for France is, I think, if, the fourth coach looks at the game and he sees what the work they did at scrum time, I think he'll be a tad disappointed. If he looks at the props, were relatively inexperienced, I think he'll be disappointed. There's a few times where the tight end overextended at times, and what's name as well. Gross didn't have the best game. So I think in that situations you look at and say, there's work to be done there, especially if they're shaping up for that last game. The way it looks now is it looks like that last game in Paris is going to determine everything, who gets the Grand Slam between England and France. Although it's still a long way to go in this competition. However, I think that's the area of concern. They need to look at, they need to be a little more dominant at scrum time. And I think maybe their run-ons, the bench just didn't provide that impact.
Yeah, they didn't actually. It was quiet.
When they came onto the field. That's France. But for Ireland, worrying times. What are they now? 46 in the world? They're there for the beat. I don't...
Back to where they belong. Back to where they belong.
The team doesn't fear me. They look out of ideas on attack. They're trying stuff. They're rushing things. The defensive line. Scoop. I mean, it's a pity Vuyo was not on the podcast today. But against this French team who uses, I mean, they always use Pino, Ramos, and LBB in the past.
Game breakers, yeah.
Game breakers. But do you want to really implement a rush defense against them? Or do you rather want to, show more width on defense? Because that's what they look for. So maybe an adjustment they could have done, and on defense. And, before I end it off, when we're speaking of Louis Beret, he scored 21 tries in 28 games or 22 tries in 28 games, something like that. He's got sick, ridiculous strike rate at the moment. But one thing we got to remember with him, this guy doesn't go on end-of-year tours. I mean, he doesn't go on their end-of-season tours. So he doesn't get the games, against the Japans, against, the Argentinas away. There's no really opportunity for him to stats pad. All of his games is 80% of the time against, top 8 or top 10 opposition in the world. So, I mean, if he continues, I think he's going to break that Campese's record easily.
Oof. Griffin, you wanted to jump in?
Yeah, just quickly on Guillard. Yeah, Jade is right. Is that, France, that second row, you were kind of thinking, oh, Olivon, he's more of a blindside flank. Or Guillard, they'd mostly been playing him at number 8. He's the one who we thought, when Aldrit was dropped, we thought that Guillard was the guy they were going to play there. And to be fair, on the kickoffs, they did use Guillard as kind of a more number 8. The way that he was receiving and running it back was much more like what you'd normally see from a number 8.
Made a lot of carries as well. Cheapest.
Yeah, and he only played for 50 minutes as well. But it worked. It worked. Good players play well. Who'd have thought? And I think that might be a bit of horses for courses type selection. I think that when we see other games, maybe if they go up against England, would they pick the same lock pairing? That remains to be seen. And then the other thing is, it's not just like Ireland Senior. Their under-20 side got smashed yesterday. And did you see the result of the Ireland A?
No, what happened?
They copped 50 at home to England A.
So there's no hope. I literally posted that this is the end of the era for Irish footy, to be honest. They had a good group of players that was built by Joe Schmidt and obviously Lancaster as well while he was at Leinster. But now they've lost all those people. They've lost all that IP. And at the moment, there's no point, guys, blaming Jacques Nina, who's at Leinster, who comes in with expertise on how to defend. And what we saw from Ireland, and Jade just said it now as well, is it wise to have rushed defense against Ireland, against France? Does it work for Ireland? Do they know their pattern shape on D? Because the Irish looked clueless on defense on Thursday night. Not wasting any time, Griffin. Gregor Townsend, this week, it was announced that he will take charge of Newcastle. So when this was announced last year about Gregor Townsend spending a week in Newcastle, so that was an interview, basically, from what I'm seeing right now, transpiring in front of our eyes, is that when Gregor Townsend was visiting, quote unquote, Newcastle, he was there on an interview because it's clear as day now that he will take over Newcastle after this season or once it's done with the World Cup in Australia. But I mean, Scotland Rugby Union, honestly, guys, you are 2 years out of the World Cup, and this guy is now being announced as the Newcastle head coach post 2027, and now he's lost against Italy. What message are we sending? What message are we sending? What are your thoughts on this Gregor Townsend situation? And now he's not the greatest guy, man, to coach this team. Everyone has been calling for Smith Franco, who's coaching Glasgow Warriors. I think he would get the best out of this team currently. And this is prime time for Scotland, especially because they're never also going to get another group like this for a very long time. Looking at their depth and looking at their under-20 situation. Their under-20 was kicked out of the main group of under-20 competition. They were playing a tier 2 level with Spain and Portugal in them. So there's no depth coming through in Scotland at the moment. I'm not saying it'll be forever, but at the moment, there's no depth coming through. And this group they have right now is the group that can take them to the highest level. This is the group we thought this season I know we've called it a few times, but we thought this is the season that Scott Robertson, Gregor Townsend would get the best out of these players and would challenge for Six Nations. Since it was Five Nations, that's the last time they won this competition. Talk to me.
Sorry, mate, is that for me?
Oh, yeah, Hugh, yeah. Sorry.
So it's not actually been officially announced that he's going to Newcastle. This was broken by the Telegraph, and they Gregor Townsend was asked about it in an interview, kind of half denied it, kind of brushed it aside. And I think what's telling is that multiple journalists from multiple publications kind of called him out and said, no, this is true. You shouldn't have kind of brushed off that question in the way that you did, which suggests that it is true. If it was just kind of one journalist jumping the gun, that's one thing. But that doesn't seem to have been what it was. Look, you're right. He's been on a consultancy for Newcastle, and that now looks quite bad for the SRU. That's kind of just been the way that he gets out the door. And it's a very, I don't know if you have this word in South Africa, cushy situation. It's a very comfortable kind of exit for Townsend to go. And from the SRU, I'm just going to call it what it is, from Scotland Rugby. It's loser mentality. It's loser mentality. They're just basically saying, we're happy to tread water for the next 2 seasons. Does anybody really think? I mean, how many games is it till the next World Cup? Something like 16, 17? Do you really think that Gregor Townsend now is going to go back to the drawing board and reassess and come up with plans of what he's going to do with selection and his game plan and coming up with new philosophies, new ideas? No, he's thinking about what house shopping in Northumberland. That's what he's going to be doing.
Exactly.
And they've really fumbled this really badly, the SRU. It's a really poor show. They should have, but frankly, Gregor should have gone already a year or if not more ago. The prevailing opinion in Scotland and in the Scottish press has turned against him a long time ago. And they just kind of just let it go on and on and on and on until it's just kind of, the captain's going down with the ship, really.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Franco, do you think you would take over post 2027, looking at the caliber that's coming through the system in Scotland at the moment? It's almost like drinking from the poison chalice at the moment, right?
I think firstly, Franco backs himself. I think Franco will want the job. I think Franco wants the Scotland job, or at least he wants a big job. He doesn't see himself coaching Glasgow forever, I can tell you that much.
Go to New Zealand, Franco. Go to New Zealand.
But hey, the Blues need a new coach. He could do a job for them. Ooh. But look, they should have gotten Franco, and I think that Franco would back himself to make an instant impact. I think that he knows the system. He knows what Glasgow have got coming through the system. Obviously, he'll know Edinburgh a little bit here and there. He's a smart guy. He's been around the block. I think he'll say, look, I'm looking at the Six Nations. Ireland's on a decline. Wales are where they are. Italy, we're Italy, even on a 50-50 with Scotland, we're going to beat them every other year at least. So it's like, and Scotland have a great record against England. So you're thinking, I bet you that if you asked Franco Smith, do you think he could win a Six Nations with Scotland? He would say yes.
Boom. Boom, Jade. Boom. What is happening in Scotland, and how great were the Italians last night?
The Italians played the conditions. They took away the line out. They were dominant at scrum time. It was they played and they almost drowned. It was like, I mean, even Ashton will go off. I've been writing him. I've been impressed with him. I've seen him in the Autumn Nations competition. I've seen this guy play, and I'm like, this guy's kind of good. I like him as a hooker. He's mobile. He's got work rate. And he just had a nightmare yesterday. But they struggled at scrum time. And all the Zander Ferguson talk, he's such a good talent.
No, Jade, I personally, I am at fault as well. I won't lie. I literally... Watching Super Rugby, watching URC, I thought Zander Ferguson, my God, it's a pity he didn't travel with the Lions because he would have been a starter definitely would have been a starter.
Yeah,
I was really praising this guy. But last night, what the hell, man?
It was in the Autumn Nation. Every game, there was a footage of him, in the stands, and how Scotland miss him, and he's one of the best tight ends in the world. And he couldn't just dominate the Italian scrum,
They were on rollerblades last night.
Yeah, they were on roller skates. They tried to string it together. They couldn't get it right. They tried to force a game in that conditions. Look, when you play in those conditions and you go down by 14 points or so, it's difficult to get back. Doesn't matter. You can be prime time All Blacks. You are going to struggle to get back in that conditions because it's difficult to keep the ball. It's a kicking contest. Everything is on the floor. Stop and go, this scrum every 2 minutes. You're going to settle down in scrums. Another minute off the clock. So you're panicking and you're getting further behind the 8 ball. However, I still thought Van Russell could have controlled the game a little bit better, when he did go down to 14 points or they go down to 15 points. I felt that he could have done things much better. It just shows you that, there's a move that they play behind the ball to Tuipulotu. Either takes the ball flat or he plays what we call it. He plays the pass behind the back. He plays back to Russell into space or to Jordan into space, and then they set up Hugh Jones. They set up Darcy Graham or whoever it is outside. They couldn't do that yesterday. There wasn't an opportunity for them to play that. They were to play the tip-ons yesterday. That was Scotland. Scotland always did that. They couldn't also run the right angles and lines in that water in that weather. The only one for me was this guy's name that played for Australia, Dempsey. I think he had made a few good runs over that advantage line. But even it was evident in the last 3-4 minutes where they had the ball and they were camped on in Italy's off. They were picking up and going, but they couldn't get anywhere. They didn't look anywhere that they were gonna, pierce the advantage, like get over the advantage line, and they were gonna cause, Italy any distress over there.
Yeah.
Brilliant performance again by Italy. I think what's the guy's name? The captain again had a good game yesterday. It's evident we're getting to Six Nations. We're getting to see these guys putting, 20 to 30 tackles in loose forwards. I think
their prop was a man of the match.
Yeah, the Algerian-born
Crazy.
prop. The Algerian-born prop. What a story! What a story! I mean, he looks like somebody that went over to Italy and he started out in the nightclub as a bouncer. He's like somebody who don't want to. Yeah, and I'm just saying, but maybe that was his story. But yes. But they lose this, again, had good games yesterday. Canone, Lamaro, good games again. Bonancello, he had a massive game again yesterday, at 12. And Bricks as well at 13. So for me, these are names that begin to get familiar with Italy. Now, here's the problem with me and Italy. They can put up a performance like this. But when you expect them to go ahead, and to go and win a game, when they do have the advantage against certain teams, or, and you're thinking, okay, Italy, that team is down to 14 men.
Yeah.
They cannot take it. So for me, they can't make that next step. But they always got this kind of performance in it. And also, you can't take away, what happened with the weather yesterday. You can't take it away, but you can't blame Scotland. I mean, you can't not fault Scotland, actually, because for me, they couldn't play the conditions right. I think Scotland should have had a bit of back against Italy. For me, I thought they had a bit of more before the game. They fancied the opportunities. They had more lines in the team. I thought, what? Maybe they'll just roll up the sleeves and show other side of Scotland, try and play 10-man rugby, Used to a lot to running right and then, kicking area, getting up. Because, the likes of Carl Stein is not bad at the high ball. However...
Wait, Jade, was it a mistake then not having Duhan?
No, I think with Duhan, I think they moved on from there. I think they've moved on from there. Okay. Honestly, I think Duhan's game dipped the past few years. And I think Carl Stein, he's done brilliantly for Glasgow. Then what's the other one's name?
You can have them on the other side of the wings, no?
Darcy Graham.
Darcy Graham. Yeah,
I think he's also added, and I think the other one is Dobie can double up as well. So I think they've all been on form. I wouldn't go back and say they must do one. I think these guys have been playing good rugby and they warrant their selection. There's also the Tom Jordan factor. What do you do with him when Kinghorn is not there? How do you not play King Horn in a situation like that? King Horn's kicking game and his aerial game. Surely they look at the weather. I don't think it just rains like that overnight, before you select your team.
Yeah.
Oh wow, it's sporting. I think they should look at the weather and look at the conditions. Say, okay, well, let's go with the safety net and have King on the back, and have another kicking, another boot option at the back, So yeah, I mean, there's bad selections I think they made, but yeah, it's all on them. And watch them now, Scoop. We'll be sitting here next week, and then somehow they'll just do what they do, and they'll win this weekend. Watch it. Just watch it.
Oh, jeez. What an upset that would be. I mean, they've got 12, 13, actually 13 players in this Scottish lineup from Glasgow Warriors, who are number 1 at URC right now, and also in a good position in Investec Championship. And people are saying this team doesn't have the minerals to literally go over the line at the end of the day. Finn Russell versus Garbisi. Remember last year, me and you, I think you were on the same path when it came to, Garbisi at the moment regarding playing against a 14-man Springbok team. I was really disappointed in him, but this Saturday, he literally managed that Italian team. He dictated the terms of play. Finn Russell, on the other hand, was in Garbisi's pocket throughout. What do you make of these 2 10s from the game yesterday?
I need to watch it again, man. I was kind of multitasking during this one. The thing with what the way that the game went, like, panned out. You talk about the rain. Italy got 2 scores up, and then the rain really started coming down. So it was Scotland's job to chase the game. They were 12-0 down in those conditions, and that was always going to be a very, very, very difficult job. I mean, if I look at Garbisi's touches, 8 kicks and 6 passes. So it's not like he's touched the ball a ton. Where if I compare to Finn Russell, 15 passes and 8 kicks again. So it's not that different. I suppose there's that the pure counts. That doesn't tell you kind of what kind of kicks they were, or where they bounced, or did they find grass, or how long they were. I don't have that data. But I think if you're looking at kind of game management, like I say, I probably need to watch it again. But I think the Italian nines, 9 has been a real kind of problem area for Italy. They've been really waiting for someone to take hold of that jersey, and I think that the game control from 9 from Fusco really had a bigger kind of impact than Garbisi did. Obviously the 9 touches the ball a lot more, but the if I look at the kind of possession stats, Scotland overall had 61% possession. So from Italy, it was a very backs to the wall defensive job. They got in the lead. If you look at where they played 50-50 in their own half. Scotland had over 75% of their ball in Italy's half, but didn't turn it into tries. And I think that part of that is good defense from Italy, great character. But part of that is also inaccuracy from Scotland. And you talk about Glasgow, this is kind of my last points. You talk about Glasgow. Yes, it was mostly a Glasgow team, but the 2 players who touched the ball the most in the team, being the scrum half and the fly half, neither of those were Glasgow. Neither of those Finn Russell used to play for Glasgow, but not under Franco. Yeah. And Ben White has never played for Glasgow, I don't believe. I think he played for Edinburgh only. So, these 2 guys, you've got like a functional, cohesive team, and then you change the 2 players who touch the ball the most.
Oof. I'm curious as to why that Glasgow 9. I don't know what his name. I forgot his name. He's a very nippy little 9. I think he gives them good ascendancy. He's very nippy around the breakdown. He gives them a very quick ball from the breakdown as well, because I think that's what Franco Smith's game plan is based on as well, like that quick ball off the base and getting people and numbers running towards the ball to create a bit of confusion, which was Ireland's tactic. And when Sexton was involved at 10, right? We're not seeing that a lot with Pendergrass, for example. And I feel like Ireland are lacking in direction and directive, and everything is based on Jameson Gibson Park. But I feel with the same thing with Scotland, why don't you have the Warriors, Glasgow Warriors 9 at the base? And he would have been perfect for these conditions because he would be darting around the breakdown. I mean, I spoke about the fact, Papir, what he's doing with the Blue Bulls. Picks the ball up from the base, darts at the pillar, who is the first defensive person next to the breakdown, sucks him in, and then you've got Post or the guy next to the pillar. You suck both those players in, and then you make an offload. With that game plan, you kind of bring the defensive lines in, but you need a really committed 9 who's really going to break this off and who's really nippy, who's able and capable of also breaking the line themselves, has the physicality. So in those situations, I'm really struggling with what Scotland are trying to do with their halfback combination as well. Now moving on to England and Wales. Jade, start off with you because I know Hugh Griffin has enough to tell us about that. What are your thoughts on England currently at the moment? I mean, they selected apparently, quote unquote, a second string side with a few players from the main starting lineup, and they were hosting the Welsh in Twickenham. Talk to me.
I think England were clinical. I think they look like a well-drilled team. That's where they are, and with the well-coached team, they understand their roles, understand what to do. The thing that caught the eye with England is their footwork, in contact, looking at Chesham, all of those guys, every time they're going to contact, the footwork to get a space, to get into space, get over that advantage. I think it's something they've been working on. However, you can't judge too much on this Welsh team. They've become a team that's been in shambles for the past 2 years or so, since the last World Cup. They just got, 80 points or 70 points against the Box because the last time they played, albeit a Welsh second team or so, but it's still a Welsh team they played. They've been struggling, picking up and coping up a lot of losses. I thought they'd be up for this game. The referee didn't make it easy. 6 yellow cards at the end of the day. Terrible. Just shows that, he didn't have any control of that game. I don't care how the discipline looks, but you have 6 yellow cards in the game. It just shows that you don't have any control, you don't have any authority in that game. Whether it's infringement of foul players, so you're just not getting your message through to the players, and there's a barrier there that you can't get through. So I think they had a poor game. From England side, I can't even rate it. I can't even say Freeman, Rundle, all of those guys had good games. They finished off well. The opportunities were there. They played against 13 men for 2 stints, and they capitalized. So what I give England is they looked good. They showed good shape on attack. Especially in their 22, they were clinical. Like I say, I like the work they're doing in contact situation to win those post-contact meters, something that maybe is the innovation they're showing in their game. Chesham, the lock, I think he's going to be a world-class lock. I think he's good. I rate him. And then, the bench came on, and what's this guy's name? Pollock, and everybody came on and did their thing, but Hoop is a difficult game, and then when you're putting 50 points on a team, and that team's playing with 13 men, what kind of analysis can you really give? Then to say that, okay, what they did well. They were arrogant, they were cocky, they were the English again. But we'll have to see this weekend, how they build on, how they go. I think they got Scotland this weekend, so can they go and get that Kolkata Cup? Look, they are one of the form teams in world rugby. You'd expect them to win 80 to 90% of the games this season because of the way they are playing. But, Scoop, it's, for me, I can't really judge them from this performance. I can't really say, hey, England, they favourite for the Six Nations, because as poor as the Welsh was, I mean, to have two stunts playing against 13 men, you're supposed to put 50 points on the opposition, isn't it?
No, fair. I hear you. For me, Jade, I mean, yeah. I mean, a scoreline like that as well, and one dominant team, I would have thought, as an official or as a referee, I mean, how many cards were there? 6, 7. So in a situation like that, I mean, personally, the game is one-sided, number one. Number two, I mean, Plumtree, apparently now he's copped what? 3 consecutive yellow cards in the last 3 games he's played internationally. In that yellow card against England, I mean, what else could he have done there? I think you also asked us this question as well. But Tandy and Sharrett, my goodness, guys, I have shared my views on how I think they should line up for how the Welsh team should line up for international games. I'm not lying when I say I think Louis Rees-Zammit should be a 13 because he needs more ball. He needs more ball. He needs to be he needs to be around action. You can't put him at 15 and expect him to do something when Wales don't have the ball. When Wales have the ball, there's plenty of opportunity for Louis Rees-Zammit to beat an opponent who's defending against him. This is what I see from him when he's on the wing, and if Wales are on the ascendancy. So at this point, I'm concerned as to what kind of game plan and tactic Tandy and Sharrett are trying to put. But at the moment, guys, from what we saw yesterday, first of all, someone also tried to make a comment on what I posted yesterday and saying that there are no players in Wales. They don't have any caliber, internationally equipped players to represent Wales. And I made the point around, remember what the Springboks 2016 team looked like. Remember what the 2017 Springbok team looked like. They've copped 50 plus points back to back against the All Blacks in 2016 and 2017. And with that, you have a Rassie Erasmus who comes in 2018. Click of a finger, all of that changes. So, if you are a good coach, guys, this is really important. If you are a good coach, you can turn things around at any moment, at any given time. These players are playing in URC, playing against best of the best. They're playing against world champions when they play South African teams. And some of the score lines with the Dragons, with the Cardiff, with Ospreys and Scarlets have been close when they play in Wales. So Wales don't have to even travel too far to Twickenham. It's like traveling from Johannesburg to Pretoria. So we cannot talk about distance and covering amounts of travel time. This is a game next door. It's in their backyard, basically. So with a good coach, things can turn around for Wales. These guys don't lack a tackling expertise. These people know how to catch and pass. These people know how to scrum, know how to line out, how to maul even. So once you have those qualities, all it comes down to is coaching. What game plan do you have for England in week 1 as a coaching staff? You've had these people for 2 weeks. What analysis have you done? You know? And I feel like I never saw anything from the Welsh coaching staff because those players could not know, those players did not know what they needed to do with ball in hand. They literally did not know what to do with ball in hand. Griffin, give us your takes on Wales and then give us your takes on the game currently. What transpired for you and what are your hot takes?
Look, let's not beat around the bush. That first 40 minutes from Wales is one of the worst 40 minutes I've ever seen from any team ever. And you talk about the teams in the URC. If they had just put out one of the URC sides, how much worse could it have been? Would a URC team have conceded back-to-back yellow cards in back-to-back mauls? Would a URC team have, Arundel's, was it his second or his third try, was an unopposed run-in because he scooped up a loose ball that had been dropped? Would that happen if it was a club team out there? Forgetting to tap the ball. No tap, just go. A tap and go with no tap. That's from the captain. That's from the team captain. But like you say, I was just reading something just now. A journalist in Wales saying, "Oh, you can't blame Tandy. It's not his fault." Well, hang on a second. He's the head coach. What have we seen? It's 5 games in now. What have we seen from Steve Tandy that he has changed and improved? Because the game against Japan that he won, I watched that game. That was an equally bad performance in that game. Wales didn't win that game. Japan lost it. It was an absolutely shambolic performance. What evidence do we have in these 5 games that we can look back on and point to it and say, Tandy's done that? And I know for a fact, and this is what really gets me, guys, is there are people who will say oh, but the attack is better. Steve Tandy does not coach Wales's attack. Steve Tandy does not coach Wales's attack. Matt Sherratt coaches Wales's attack, and Wales's attack has been better ever since Matt Sherratt came in halfway through the last 6 Nations. But at the same time, it is starting to look a bit like in 1 year, Matt Sherratt has used up all of his cool starter plays, all of his moves, and all of these elite level international teams have analysed them and go, oh, if we do this, this, and this, then they won't score. And, in our last 2 games, we've scored 1 try. In our last 2 games, we've scored 1 try.
Jesus.
The main thing, if we just talk about selection, and again, people aren't blaming players because they're like, oh, there's a bigger thing around them. There's players who shouldn't be in this team. They don't do a job for their club. They're not subject to real scrutiny at club level, and they're clearly not going to make it as international players. And people say, oh, who are you picking instead? There are players who are playing better at club level than some of these players are. It's not. Look, I'm not saying there's an embarrassment of riches waiting in the wings, but there's better solutions in some positions, and there's some positions where they're taking huge risks, and there's some positions where they're playing incredibly safe, and it doesn't add up. And the one thing to me that I've been thinking about today, and I can't get my head around, is Wales play off 9, right? I think it was something like 87 carries, 88 passes in this game. They play off 9, right? This is not a team that goes through the hands and gets the ball into the wide channels. They play off 9 because Thomas Williams, the 9, is Wales's best player. With Jack Morgan out injured, Thomas Williams is the best player. So why are we doing this dual playmaker 10-12 thing? Why are we playing off 9 with a double playmaker 10-12? That doesn't make any sense. And I think
what was that centre pairing over the weekend? Also,
say again, mate. Sorry.
No, I'm saying what was that centre pairing that they chose for this game? Well, Jesus.
Because they're wedded to basically a second playmaker, a guy who can play 10, wearing 12. So Ben Thomas and Joe Hawkins are both 12s who have played 10 professionally. Because they're wedded to that, they have to have a big ball carrier at 13, which has been the case since Gatland. To be fair, it was George North, and then it was Max Llewellyn, Mason Grady's been tried there, and now it's Eddie James. Eddie James is a great player, by the way. Eddie James is not the problem here. But what I'm saying about this 10-12 thing is between Dan Edwards and Ben Thomas, these guys have zero chemistry together. Absolutely zero going on between them. I think if I looked back on like when they passed the ball to each other, I think every time they passed the ball to the other, it resulted in a territory loss.
Oh,
that like it's these guys, they don't even look like they've ever had a coffee together, let alone know what they're doing. It seems like I'm not seeing tons of leadership from Dan Edwards when Wales have the ball, which isn't very much. Wales don't have the ball very often, but I'm not seeing tons of leadership from Dan Edwards when he has it. Like I said, it's either playing off 9 or letting Ben Thomas come try and do something, or Lewis Rees-Zammit try and do something. And you saw a couple of hospital passes thrown yesterday, and I'm just not seeing it. I'm not seeing why they're persisting with this plan that isn't working, and I don't get the logic of it. You know, there are better solutions out there, and yeah, so that's why when people say like, "Oh, there's nothing else that the coaches could do," you know, it's not the coach's fault. I'm like, there are selection issues here. There are underlying issues here. Like, flip the question around. What is going right with this group of coaches? What has ever gone right?
Yeah, no, fair. I mean, at the end of the day, as much as people can say it's not the coach's fault, a lot can be blamed on the coach from what you see on the field. It takes me back to our earlier conversation regarding Scott Robertson, and what we saw from the All Blacks perspective was pretty much based on what I read in the New Zealand Rugby Herald, to be honest. And coaching, to be honest, guys, yeah, it's a tough gig, but you have to get your ducks in place. You have to win over your leadership group. You have to be aligned with your leadership group. You have to get those guys on your side, and also the game plan you plan to implement. I think when Vickers did say this, these are professionals. They're playing professional rugby every other week. Putting on a jersey for your national team should be an elevation from your club rugby. You play against toughest opponents throughout URC, throughout Investec Championship, right? Like I said, it's not like these people don't know how to tackle. They don't know how to pass a ball. They know all these things. It's just the game plan you have to implement. At the end of the day, Sharrett and Tandy, I'm sorry, it's not really coming out. Moving on, guys. I think we've dragged this quite a lot at the moment. Next week, we're having back-to-back weekends of Six Nations. Ireland, Italy, Griffin. What do you think in Ireland?
Usually one of the dullest games of the Six Nations. Italy have never won in Dublin, and Ireland aren't known for their razzle-dazzle. I expect a somewhat bland, comfortable win for Ireland. I'm not expecting Italy to back it up, to be honest. I mean, I was wrong about them in the first game. I didn't think they'd win that either.
Yeah,
but it would be a big shock if they won this. So I'm expecting it's one of those no-win for Ireland. We see these all the time, don't we? When you come up against a lesser team after you've just copped a bad loss, and it's if you don't beat them handsomely, it kind of just shows that you've still got problems. Whereas if you do beat them handsomely, no one gives you credit because it's a weaker team. So it's a no-win situation for Ireland, really.
Crazy. I think first 40 will be competitive, I think, from Italy. And maybe Ireland wins it at the death. But saying that, I'm not taking away or I'm not removing the prospect of Italy upsetting Ireland at home. I'm not moving away from that. Maybe Italy can just do something magnificent and building from last week's yesterday's win, and they take that motivation right through to next weekend and say, hey guys, you see, we can do this. If your coach can go to you and say, hey, guys, you are capable of doing X, Y, Z. You are capable of doing this. No one expects you to win in Dublin. Nobody. Only you guys can take yourselves out of that negative space and really try and push for a win for the first time in Ireland. There's a potential opportunity right there, I think, for Italy. Jade, Ireland, Italy?
Nah, after all of that talk you gave there, Italy will target the Wales game and they'll be happy with 2 victories in the Six
No,
Nations.
come on. They should be targeting more than 2 games. With the performance they put out in Rome, surely. Anyway, Jade, sticking with you, Scotland, Italy next week in Scotland. Murrayfield.
Scotland, England, ain't it?
Yeah, I'm saying Murrayfield next week, Scotland, England.
I'm going against odds. I'm saying Scotland to retain the cup. It's their World Cup. They will be up for this. Watch it. Watch.
Nah, I think England will take this one easily, actually. Scotland might compete for the first 40, but second half, I think England have the minerals right now, and they're very confident. And I think they can also feel that this is their Six Nations to win this year. They really feel it in the group. You can see it from yesterday's game. I think, yeah, there's potential there. Hugh?
Scotland normally turn up for this, but if we go off form, we go off the data that we've seen, England should win it comfortably.
100%. Sticking with you, Griffin, Wales, France, Millennium Stadium.
Let's talk about this one differently. Why would France send their strongest team to this game? Remember that the Six Nations used to be 7 weeks, but is now 6, and they've lost a rest week. So
really?
why would France send their strongest team to play this
snap.
game?
I see they play 3 weeks in a row. Boom, 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 boom. Damn. Yep. Because it used to be 2 and then a rest and then 2 more.
Yep.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's a fair point. Okay, you are going for France, but it's at home. Surely Wales have a fight in them? Or
Dude, last time we played at home, we lost 73-0.
Sheesh. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, man. I really want Wales to do something different and really impress me. And it's a Sunday game as well. During the Rugby Scoop podcast. Damn it. Jade? Wales, France?
Nah, France comfortable. I think we'll see a little bit more spirit from Wales. I think they'll score maybe a few more tries. It won't be 40 points, but France will be done.
Damn. Okay, fair enough, guys. We were going to touch on Super Rugby preseason, but we don't have time, guys. We've literally done an hour and 40 on this conversation. We're really pushing for 2 hours at this point. Great conversation as usual, and I think we've broken it down quite nicely. I don't know what's happening in Ireland at the moment. They're on a dip, and a massive dip at that. Italy, rugby looking good, very good. And England are looking good. France and England looking massive, looking really good to take the Six Nations campaign to another level. Thank you guys for listening in. And yeah, thanks you, thanks Jade, and thanks to the listeners as well. Bumelelo, we see you. Scrum and Flower, we see you. Wanda, we see you. Jeremiah, as a joiner just now. Too late to apologize. Guys, thank you very much for tuning in. And yeah, we'll see you guys next week. And follow Hugh Griffin, follow Jade Craig. Griffin is also doing some work. What is this thing called again? What is that channel, Griff?
Oh yeah, I got invited onto Al Jazeera to
Al Jazeera. Yes, Al Jazeera. Check out Hugh's timeline for that, and also check out his work on YouTube as well. Jade Craig and myself, we're just here on Twitter. We're just here on X, and you can follow us as well. Yeah, that's about it. Guys, let me not drag this for too long. Cheers, everybody. Have a wonderful Sunday. Good Sunday dinner. Good Sunday roast. Oh, by the way, if you are into NFL, 12 o'clock tonight, 12 p.m., Super Bowl 60 is on live. Cheers, everybody. Have a great Sunday.
Halftime show was tonight. Scoop, just watch for the halftime show in the adverts.
No. I don't care about halftime shows. Literally, I'm planning to sleep that hour and then wake up again and watch the rest of the game. I'm not watching halftime shows. Not a chance. I'll watch on Twitter. I'll watch on X. I'm not watching a halftime show. Not a chance. All right, guys. Have a good Sunday. And enjoy the rest of the week. See you guys next week, Sunday, when we break down Ireland, Italy, Scotland, England, Wales versus France on Sunday. Cheers, guys. Bye.
Cheers.